All right. So from Bamboo, when the employees log into Bamboo, they'll have links next to their name, and each of these, or their photo here on their dashboard, and each of these links will take them directly into TRAX, depending upon what modules you're using within TRAX. Okay. The View Pay Stub, what happens is on payday, the employer receives an email that says today's payday, click here to view your pay stub, and so they'll click on the link. It gives them directions to log into Bamboo, to click on the View Pay Stub link. When they click on that link, it opens up a new web browser window. Will take them directly into TRAX automatically to their employee portal within TRAX, where it'll take them to their Paychecks tab, where they can click the View Pay Stub link for their current pay stub. And on the pay stub, we show them their current earnings, the taxes being taken out, and any deductions. And for the deduction portion, we can actually show not only the employee cost, but if you're contributing and paying for a portion of like their 401k or medical, dental, vision, any of that, we can show the employer paid cost as well. Okay.
Great.
If you're tracking time within TRAX, we can actually show their balance for their PTO, their sick time, their vacation time, however you break that out. We can show that on the pay stub as well. So between TRAX and Bamboo, Bamboo does have their own PTO request and approval process. They do have their own PTO accrual process as well. That does not synchronize with our system. Okay, so you do need to make a business decision as to where you want to track that information and what makes the most amount of sense. Most clients who are actually utilizing our time tracking system, having the employees punch in and punch out, will actually migrate over to our PTO request and approval process and accrual process as well, just because it makes sense to have it all in one system. The employee literally clicks on a link that takes them into our system to see their balances, and they'll also be able to see it on their pay stub as well. Okay.
Okay.
So what happens is that they'll have a link in here that says request time off, where they'll be able to see their current balances and be able to request their time off. Okay, whether it's for a single day or a date range, they would just choose, you know, for example, personal time off. Maybe we're going to take the 21st off next week, or I'm sorry, not yet, yesterday, or Monday, the 28th for next week, you know, 8 hours, and then, you know, just a vacation day. And then they submit that, and now that's sitting in a pending status until the employee or the manager approves it. So a notification has been sent to the manager. The manager can now either deny or approve that request. Okay.
Okay.
So from a admin perspective, I'm going to go ahead and bounce out of this and come back into it as an admin. We have a couple different tabs. We have our home tab here, and under the home tab, this is where you'll have some upcoming, when your next payroll is due, upcoming birth dates, anniversary review dates, if you're tracking that within our system. You'll have the payroll center. This is where you go to actually run your payroll, and I'll come back to this in a few. The company tab is where we actually set up all your company structure on the system. So this would be for you know, your contact information and company information. You'd set up any deductions to be taken out of the employee's paycheck. And for our deductions, we actually only define for you the deduction type. And that derives how that deduction is going to be taken before taxes or after taxes, and if there's any specific rules written around that deduction type. So for example, if you have like a medical plan, you can call it any code that you want, like maybe MED for medical, and then you can, you know, give it any description that you want. So just depending upon what you want to call that, if you want to break that out into the different, you know, PPO versus HMO offerings, etc. Okay, and this is also where you can set it for whether it's to be paid by the employee only, the employer only, or both. So for example, if you're contributing and you want to show the employee, you can choose both. If it's something where maybe it's the LTD, STD, or basic life plan that's an employer-sponsored plan, and you only want it, you know, you still want to be able to show that on the pay stub, you can choose employer only. Okay.
Okay.
The workers' comp tab, this is where you're going to set up any worker comp classification codes and the rates, and then you can apply that to the employee, and then we have reports that you can pull. We also do work with a few different worker comp providers, such as Hartford, AmTrust, Travelers, Preferred Employers, and CNA, where we can actually do the pay-as-you-go option, and you just choose TRAXPayroll as the preferred vendor. Okay.
Okay.
The bank tab is where you would set up your company bank account information, and this is going to be the bank account that we're going to sweep the funds to fund the payroll. Okay.
Okay.
User tab is where you can set up any different administrative users on the account and what they have access to, so you can set different roles based on that. So, you know, if you have somebody that's just timesheet only and they're just managing timesheet as an administrator, you could set that up. Or maybe they're going to be doing remote link, and remote link is where the data synchronizes between the two systems. The pay group tab, this is where you're going to set up the different types of pay groups, so you can break it out. You can have one payroll calendar or pay group, or you can parse it out if you have, you know, as you're growing, maybe you want to have your employees set up as hourly versus, you know, salaried employees, just to make it more manageable. We typically suggest that if you get up to 150 employees that you start to break it out. It just makes processing a little bit easier. The hour benefit types, this is where you can set up the different hourly benefits that you provide to your employees, so your personal time, sick time, vacation time, or if you roll that up into personal time, holiday time, floating, etc. We have a list here that you can choose from. And then you can also choose whether you want to allow time off requests for that hour type, and whether you want to show an employee balance or not. Okay. We can also set up accruals here. So our accrual templates, you can set up multiple different types, and they can be based off of hours worked or based off of per pay period. So for example, in this case here, this is based on per pay cycle. So for the first 5 years of service with the company, the employee is earning 3.34 hours per pay cycle with a max balance of 80. And then on that 6th year, on their anniversary date, they will start accruing 5 hours automatically. So when you set up these templates, you can apply them to the employee based on their hire date. It will automatically give them a level of accrual based on where they fall. Okay. And we can also do it on hours worked. So if you have hourly employees and they need to earn based on so many hours worked, you can do that as well. Okay.
Okay. Can you schedule accruals based on? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, no,
no. Can you set up accruals based on levels of positions?
For example,
being like, let's say directors accrue an additional day per month of vacation, so they're on a different accrual schedule than let's say an assistant would be on.
Absolutely. So, for example, this one's just called PTO, PTO hour accrual schedule. You can add another template that's, you can call it, directors, and it's based on, an annual per pay period. So now you have your directors here. You can go and add your template based on, and for the first 5 years, instead of accruing 3.34, they're accruing maybe 5 hours, per pay period.
I understand.
Okay.
Perfect.
So yeah, you have the flexibility to create that, and we typically help walk you through that. Anytime you need a new accrual set up or anything like that, and test it and make sure, because once you set this up based on, if it was they started accruing based off the first after 30 days of employment or 90 days of employment, we can set it up based on monthly so that it's accruing based on months calculated so that you can not start accruing until after 90 days.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a lot of flexibility with that. And then branch, class, department, division, these are different ways to categorize your employees to help make reporting more useful. All of our reports that are in PDF can be sorted by these different classifications. Okay, and you'll notice we do have ledger codes all throughout the system. So going back to talking about having QuickBooks or some sort of accounting reports, you can set up these ledger codes and be able to run reports based off of them accordingly. Okay.
Great.
We also have the capability to turn on or off job tracking. So if you need to have employees clocking in and clocking out, if you need to utilize our time tracking system, we can set up different job categories, and those jobs can actually be tied back to wages. So if you have an employee that is working within one department and they make $8 an hour versus when they move and work into a separate department, maybe they're making $10 an hour.
Okay.
So the system definitely has a lot of flexibility and scalability to add features on that are needed as you grow. Okay. The Employee tab, this is where all your employees are going to reside. We kind of give you some search criteria here that if you want to search on a specific employee type, like maybe you want to look at all your hourly employees or all your salary employees, employees within a certain state, so you can kind of filter. If you need active only or terminated or all, so you have some different search criteria. Okay, we kind of just show you a list of some pertinent information down here. You can click on the employee's name to drill into that employee's detail. You can actually log in as the employee as well, so you can see what they see on their employee portal within TRAX. Okay, but if you click on the employee's name, it takes you into the detail where you'll see some sub-tabs here. So on the general screen here, this is just some general information about the employee. Most of the employee indicative data does pull over directly from Bamboo. You can choose to allow the employee to log in separately, and that would be something where, like, let's say the employee's been terminated. So you've now shut them out of Bamboo, but you still want them to be able to log into TRAX separately to be able to pull up their prior pay stubs in case they have like a car loan or a home loan and they need to provide that information. Instead of having to come to you, you can actually update their email address to their personal email address, reset their password, say allow login but don't include them in payroll, and then you can actually send them an updated password to their personal email, so then that way they can start logging in separately directly through TRAX.
Gotcha.
The demographic tab is just what you've assigned to them for their branch, class, division, department. The wage tab, this also synchronizes over from Bamboo, and we do have date effectiveness, so you'll have all your prior dates, what's current and active, and the system will pull it accordingly based on that current date. Okay, so if you put in future information, it won't start pulling it until it hits that actual date. Okay.
Okay.
Deductions for the employee, this is where you'll add those deductions that you created on the company tab to apply to the employee accordingly. And you can also set up, for example, like so for 401k. At the company level, everybody is, maybe the company is contributing based on the employee's contribution 2%. So you can set that up at the company level, but maybe this is an executive and you've negotiated something separate for them. You can actually override that and say, based on the employee's contribution, we're actually going to contribute for this one employee 5%. Okay, so you can actually override the company level specific per employee if you needed to. Okay. The Hour Benefits tab, this is where you're going to apply that personal time off accrual templates. And you'll notice based on what we said at the company level, it will apply the dates accordingly. So the current one is from 2010 to 2015 here, accruing at 4 hours, and then as soon as they hit that next level on their anniversary date, the system will automatically start accruing at 5 levels, or at 5 hours per pay cycle. You can also do any one-time credits or adjustments here by clicking the Add Hour Benefit link. And you can come in here and you can give them a credit or a debit as needed. So if someone forgot to tell you that they took some time off or they called in sick the other day and you need to debit it, you can come in here and actually apply that adjustment. Or if you wanted to give them a credit, for instead of giving them a raise, you wanted to give them additional hour of vacation time as a bonus, you can come in here and do that and give them an additional credit. Okay. And then it'll apply that accordingly to the next pay cycle. Okay. The bank tab, this is where you would enter in any of their direct deposit information. It is unlimited. They can have as many different accounts that they want their money disseminated to, and the system can handle dollar or percents. And there's no additional cost. Okay.
Okay.
You can add some notes here, and then also you have the ability to view any prior pay stubs that the employee is with the company throughout your years of service on TRAX. Okay, so we store everything out here. You'll always have access to it. Okay, we believe the data is your data. You should always have access to your data. Okay. Reports tab, I'll come back to the, oh, go ahead.
One question.
Yeah.
Sorry, on the direct deposit, does it generally take one pay period to get a direct deposit account set up? In other words, will the first check always be a live one?
No, there is no pre-note. The first check will actually be deposited directly to that direct deposit account as soon as it's entered in. So there's no pre-note. So when you come in here to the bank tab and you add an additional or a new one, the system will actually tell you if you've entered in the incorrect routing number. So let's say that I've entered in, that number, and I want this one to be a percent of, 10% of the paycheck. And you say save, the system's going to tell you the ABA number or the routing number is not a valid one because it's doing a compare to a federal register that we belong to be able to have all the current updated bank account routing numbers.
Okay.
Okay, but you still want to go through that due diligence of being able to, have them give you a voided check or a copy of a voided check, so in that way you have that correct account number to make sure that it was keyed in properly instead of them handwriting it down and, or giving it and they've transposed numbers or anything like that. Because if the account number is entered in incorrectly, it will take up to 24 hours before we get notification back that the bank, doesn't recognize that account number.
Okay.
And then at that point, you have the option to either cut them a live check and we'll deposit the money back in your account once it gets returned, or you can update it to the correct account number and we'll redeposit it.
Okay.
Okay. So going back to the reports tab, we'll jump back into this after we process a payroll. And then the remote link tab, this is where we actually synchronize the data between the two systems. So once you've entered in your new employee into Bamboo, you would come to the remote link tab here. Every time that you click on it, it does do a fresh compare between the two systems to see what data elements are new or what data elements have changed. If it's a new employee, it'll say add new down here, and you just click add new. And it will pre-populate our add new employee wizard with the data that you've already entered into Bamboo, so you do not have to double key that information in. Okay. There will be some information you'll have to fill out, for example, their filing status and their exemptions. So in this case, if it's the state of California, did they turn in their W-4 a single, zero, or married to, whatever that happens to be. So there'll be a few things that you'll need to key in. And this will change based upon the different states. So I believe you have multiple different states that you have employees residing within. So each state will have different filing status or exemption types based on that state's tax requirements. Okay?
Yep.
And then if it's a changed employee, so the employee, maybe you have self-service for the employee turned on the Bamboo side. So the employee has gone in and made a change to their record. At that point, what you can do is when you come in here and you click the remote link tab, it does that fresh compare and it'll tell you. In this case here, it says edit or apply changes. It says assigned with differences. This means that it's found a match and it's been assigned to a record in our system. So you want to know what are those differences because you turned on the self-service. You can click on edit, and our system will actually tell you what is in the remote vendor, which would be Bamboo, versus what's in Trax. And so you can see here that obviously we've bolded and highlighted here the data elements that have changed. It looks like they've updated their address. So within Trax, they're currently sitting in Pennsylvania, but they've changed it to California. So now depending upon where you are in the payroll cycle, you may want to sit on this because they know that they're moving, but they're not moving for another month or two. And so they've already updated their information in Bamboo with that new address. But if you actually apply this change now and there's 2 more payrolls that they need to run under Pennsylvania taxes, you may want to sit on this for a little bit before you actually apply it. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why we do this step is we want to make sure that, even though the employees made that change, it may have tax implications if they're crossing state lines. So we just want you to say either yes, go ahead and apply it, or to sit on it. So you can check the boxes to go ahead and say save check, and it'll update, and then it'll drop off the list. Okay. So again, if I go out to Bamboo here and get logged back in, there we go, and I go to an employee's record and I make that update. So we'll just go to Ricky Anderson here. and we're actually going to go to his personal tab, and we're just going to make a change, and let's just go ahead and change his address. So we'll just say 9876, say 2nd Street, and let's update that from Hercules to Martinez, just because I happen to know the zip code, and then we'll say save. So within Bamboo, it's going to tell you the record's been saved, and as soon as you come back out to Trax and you click that remote link tab, it will actually say there's Ricky Anderson. He has a difference. So you know what that change is because you just made it. So you can say apply changes, and it'll update Trax and drop off your list. So your goal is to make sure that the remote link tab is actually in sync and updated. If there's a record sitting out here, that means that there's something that's out of place, that's been changed. So your goal is to kind of have this empty. And we do the same thing with the wages. So whenever there's a wage change, you can come in here. I can see with this employee, it looks like that he has a new record here. Okay, it looks like this one's ending 6/30/2014, and then a new one as of 7/1, going from $20 to $35 an hour. So I can say apply changes, add new, drops off the list, updates our system. If you're not sure what that change is, again, you can click on the edit to be able to see. It looks like there was a salary difference. He went from within Trax, it looks like it was 104 versus 2,500 per pay period. So again, you can check the box and say save check, and it drops off your list. Okay.
So in terms of the wages, there is an effective date that can be listed. So like, for example, if I know right now, let's say July the 22nd, I think, or the 23rd. So if I know that I'm moving on September the 1st and I change my address, there's no effective date that I can set to say this change is made effective 9/1. That's why I have to make sure that I've not either run a payroll or that I'm pushing over the information too soon before that person actually moves, right?
Correct. You do want to make sure that you, on the address side of it, that you are making sure that you apply it at the appropriate time. Now, we do track down here certain information on an employee change log, so you can always see the date and time that something actually changed. Okay, and you can actually print that out. We have it in another place. If you need to make an edit or make any changes to that change, you can drill into the information as well. Okay, to say the reason why that employee terminated, etc. Okay, but as for the wages, we do track date effectiveness on all the wages, so you'll be able to see that difference, and you'll be able to apply it in the future, and the system will take it. And that's the same for wages and deductions. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So for the time tracking, if you are utilizing our time tracking system, you have employees either physically, there's two options. They can physically clock in and clock out, or they can physically enter in their time or manually enter in their time. I came in at 8, I went to lunch at noon, I came back at 1, I went home at 5. So they can key that information in. If you are utilizing it from a time and attendance perspective for PTO, and you need to approve that time, you would come to the approved time log. You would be able to see if the employee actually has time card or time off listed here. So for example, if I come back out to an employee record, and let's just go ahead and go into Melissa here, and I'm going to request some time off for the pay period of 7/1. So let's go ahead and just request a single day off, and we're going to do it back on the 8th. We'll just say that it was sick time, 8 hours that she was out, and I'm going to go ahead and say save. So now what has happened is an email has been sent to the employee's manager. The employee manager will log in, and when they log into their employee portal, they'll click on the View Pay Stub link within Bamboo that takes them to Trax. They'll have a timesheet tab here where they'll be able to see that time off. So they'll have a manage time off section here. They'll see that request sitting out here. So here's that Melissa sitting here for a pending request. You can see there's some other ones listed out here. So we don't have the nice PTO calendar view of who's out when, but we do have it as a list view. So you can always see, okay, I see that Richard's requested some time off here in the future. I want to know, is there anybody else that's going to be off during that time frame? So I can actually go look at that list for that time frame of July for that week. We'll just do the 20th through 26th, see if there's anybody else that's pending or approved. So right now I'm looking at pending, so right now it's just him. Has anybody else been approved? So I can look and see if anybody else has been approved that time. Nobody's been approved during that week. So if I want to come back here and go ahead and approve that time, I can come in, I can say approve, select all, update, and now they've all been set to the approved status. Okay. So I'm going to go back to July 1st here and look at my Melissa. So here she has her sick time off. I'm going to go ahead and approve that. So you say approve, you select, and update. So now if I go back and I look at what's been approved for that time frame. So now here I have from 7/1 through 7/26, anybody that's been approved for any type of time off. It tells me the hour type, tells me personal time off type there, what their current balance is. This is what their current balance is for that hour type. So she has, if they were in the negative or they requested some time off and they were going to go into the negative, it would actually show this in red. Because if you approve it and they're an hourly employee, it will still pay them even though they're in the negative if you approve it. Okay?
Got it.
So now the time's been for 7/8 here. That one's been approved for that sick time. So as an administrator, when I come back in and I go to my timesheet tab, or as a manager, what you want to do is when you come to the approved time log here, you'll see all of your employees' punches and any time off. So here's that time off for her that was approved by her manager that's sitting here. So you just want to make sure that you approve it to pay it for payroll as well. Okay. So it looks like all the time has been approved by the managers. Once the manager approves or the admin approves the actual time worked, then it will calculate out the overtime based on the overtime rules for that state. So it's very different in California, obviously, than it is in, like Arizona or Nevada on how they calculate overtime. It's more based on weeks versus per day.
Right.
Okay. So now all your time's ready to pull into payroll. So when you come to the payroll center, you would click either start payroll if you haven't started it. In this case, being a demo, it's in a continuous state. So I'm just going to go ahead and say continue. And then you would click a button that says get approved hours. And it pulls over those hours that have already been approved in the system to populate to the buckets accordingly, to the regular time, the overtime bucket, the personal time off, the sick time. So here's that 8 hours for Melissa that she requested and was approved. So it'll automatically pay her 8 hours of sick time and deduct it from her current balance. You can see here the overtime and the regular time. It automatically populated to these buckets accordingly. Okay. For the salaried employees, it will pull over their per pay period salary amount automatically. Okay. Our payroll is a 3-step process. I'm on step 1, and step 1 is just our hours entry page. Okay, so this is where you're going to want to make sure that you have any hours entered into the system for your hourly employees. If you are tracking the PTO within Bamboo and not within Trax, you'll just need to run a report out of Bamboo to key in those hours that they took and were approved. Okay, so you just come in here and you key in that they took 8 hours. If you need to pay the employee, okay, if they're a salaried employee, it's not going to matter because they're still going to get that per pay period salary amount. You can also do any one-time adjustments. So let's say it's a new hire and their regular per pay period amount is this $3,300, but they only worked part of the pay period. You can come in here and do a one-time adjustment, to $3,000, whatever it happened to be for that, for that pay period. Okay, and then the next time you run payroll, it'll pull over that per pay period amount again. So you can do any one-time adjustments here as well. If you have job tracking, you can see that, for the job tracking, she has 68 hours to human resources and 9 hours to administration. It looks like she actually does get paid the same amount for both. Okay. So once you have all your hours in, you would click next to go to step 2. And as soon as my internet catches up here, step 2 is what we call our additional pay entry screen. So this is where you would enter in any additional pay you need to pay the employee. So we do have a drop-down list here that has multiple different types of additional pay types. We can customize this list as well to anything that you need to have listed here. So if you have something specific that specific pay type that you call something that you want it to be listed here, we can do that. Otherwise, you can just enter in, maybe it's an expense reimbursement of $25. You can enter that in right here on this page. If you have more than one, or you need to make any adjustments to their tax withholdings, you can click on the edit link, and it'll take you into the detail of that check. And then this is where you can enter in up to 3 different pay types here. So maybe you have an expense reimbursement, and maybe you also have a cell phone reimbursement if you provide something along that line. Okay. We can also set up what's called reoccurring pay, and you can enter it in. So, for example, let's say that you have salespeople who get a monthly car reimbursement, of $200 a month. You can actually enter that in as $100 per pay period and have it reimburse them each pay period for that amount, so that you don't have to remember to key it in once a month. Okay.
Great.
This is also within the edit mode. You can make any one-time changes to their federal and state withholdings. Okay, so if they say, you know what, I think I'm going to get dinged on my taxes, I actually want to take out an additional $25 this one pay period. Okay, you can do that as well. You can also make any adjustments to their deductions. So if it's a new employee and they were hired at the end of the month and they need to pay for the whole month premium, you can come in here and actually override that one time. Okay. You can also make this a printable check. If you need to, for whatever reason, have it as a printable check as opposed to having a direct deposited. So you can make any one-time edits in this mode right here. You can even put a note, thank you, or instead of thank you for something, you can actually say expense for computer supplies. And that will actually show on the pay stub. Okay. We can also do what we call an additional check. So let's say that you need to pay the employee a commission check or a bonus check that needs to be taxed separately. So you can actually click on Add Check. It'll put you into the edit mode, where then you can enter in the information that you need. So in this case, let's just say that we're going to pay him a $2,500 bonus check. And this bonus check is actually, let's just say it's a, maybe it's a quarterly bonus. Okay, so you can actually change that tax frequency too. And you can override the federal and state tax withholding and change it to, let's say it's the, I believe there's a federal amount of 25% for supplemental income over a certain amount.
Yep.
Okay, and same way, so in that way it doesn't impact their regular pay, it's only going to be impacting this $2,500 bonus amount. Okay, I think it's 10% at the state level, depending on the state. Okay. So now once you say save, you'll see now that they have their regular check and then they have their additional check for the bonus. That's going to be taxed separately. Okay. So once you have all your additional pay in, you would calculate the payroll by clicking the Calculate Payroll button. It is a real-time calculation engine, so it will calculate what your payroll liability is real-time, so you'll be able to tell instantly what your total liability is. So we have a list here of all your employees. You can see Charlotte has her 2 checks here. She has her regular pay and then that bonus amount. We show you the taxable amount, the non-taxable wages, if they're hourly employee, the hours that they worked, any uncollectible deductions. So this would be your medical, dental, vision, 401k, any of those premiums that were deducted from their pay. Trax can collect and remit on your behalf any garnishments. So if you have any employees that have child support or tax levy garnishments that need to be taken out of their pay, we can actually collect and remit that to the vendor accordingly. Okay. We list out the employee tax, the employer tax, what their direct deposit is, and then what the check net is if they're not a direct deposit. So now we are a green company, so if the employee does not have direct deposit and you need to cut them a live check, you'll be printing that there on site and cutting that check there on site. We do not print and mail any checks out. Okay, and I'll show you, we offer 3 different ways to be able to cut them there on site, and I'll show you how you do that. Okay. You can actually click on the employee's name here and actually drill into their pay stub. It will say not approved until you actually approve the payroll, but then it lists out here, this being a demo account, there's a bunch of stuff in here, but you can see all of their employee costs, their employer paid costs. So this kind of acts as a nice little mini compensation statement to show the employee not only how much you've been paid them year to date for their wages, but also anything that you've been contributing towards benefits. Okay. And then down here at the bottom, we actually tell you your total amount to be electronically transmitted. Okay. That amount is going to include all of your direct deposits, your employee taxes, your employer taxes, and then any collectible deductions and whatever our fees happen to be for that payroll. Okay, so that will be the amount that we will actually sweep from your company bank account to fund the payroll. We list out here the checks that you need to print on site, and then what your total cash requirement is. We do have reports down here that are all in PDF format. You can drill into each deduction or list all deductions out. Our cash requirement report is going to look just like step 3 there, that screenshot. We do have a payroll summary report that summarizes the gross wages for any contract employees, 1099 employees versus your regular employees. Subtotal and total that out for you. The net amounts, the deductions. We'll list out the subtotal for each deduction type and then a total. The employee tax types, as well as down here the employer tax types. Okay, the total, and then your total liability. And then we also have a payroll register, which summarizes the information per employee by wages, employee taxes, employer tax, and deductions. Gives you their current and their year-to-date amounts. And you can run these, you can see down here at the bottom there's a grand total as well. You can run each of these reports as well by branch, class, department, division as well. Okay. Once everything looks good, you're ready to approve your payroll. You would just click Approve Payroll. It is a 2-step approval process. So you'll click OK, and then once you do click OK, it'll put you up into the Reports tab. Okay. So from here, this is where you can run all your reports, either by pay cycle, by date range, and then quarterly and year end. For the pay cycle reports, this would be your most current payroll sitting out here. Again, you can drill into the employee's pay stub if you need to print it out for whatever reason. If you have employees that are on paper check, this is the most common way that most of our clients will print their checks. They'll click on paper here, changes your list to those employees that you need to cut live checks for. Click All Employees. It'll pull each one of those employees up into a printable check format. That way you can put your check stock into your printer, do File Print, and it'll print right onto your check stock. And we can customize this check portion here to be on the top, middle, or bottom of the page. We can include or suppress the company name and address. If you already have that pre-printed on there, we would suppress it. And we can also include a signature line down here at the bottom with a pre-printed signature if you provide us that information, that bitmap. Okay. So you would just stick your check stock into the printer, do File Print, and this will print right onto your check stock. So that's the most common way. We can also do a paper check report into a, for example, if you print your checks out of QuickBooks, this would be an example of an IIF file that you could pull up. Let's see if it's pulling up here. There we go. Taking a second here. And then you can import it into like QuickBooks or whatever accounting system that you have that will actually, in the, I think it's called the to be printed mode. So this would be an example of that IIF file. Then you can import this directly into QuickBooks and print your checks directly out of QuickBooks. The other option that we have, let's see if it's pulling up here. There we go. So you can see it's in the to be printed mode, and it'll print it right out based on that file that you upload to QuickBooks. We also have just a paper check report that's got the net amounts, because the employee will still receive the email saying today's payday, click here to view your pay stub, take them to their Bamboo login page where they'll log into Bamboo, click the view pay stub link to be able to view their pay stub. And then you can give the, if this is the way you prefer, you can hand this over to accounting department to print the checks. This will just be the net amounts. Okay. We also have all those same reports we went over, cash requirement, payroll summary, payroll register, okay, as well as some additional checks in Excel format. So the paycheck register would be the payroll register in Excel. Okay, this would be an example of a general ledger report that you could import into QuickBooks to book your payroll to QuickBooks or whatever accounting system that you're using. Okay. We can do it as a journal entry or as a general ledger report, depending. We just need to know the file format that it needs to be saved as. Okay. And then we also have reports by date range. So all the same reports, cash requirement, payroll summary, payroll register. We have complete summary by employee, complete summary by pay date in Excel. We have a bunch of different summary type reports as well. And again, you can run them annually, by quarter, by a month, or by a specific pay date. If you want to look, specifically at the, maybe the last June payroll, you can come in and actually enter that in. So like the 16th through the 30th. Apply and then run the report accordingly. Okay. We also have quarterly and year-end reports. This is where we're going to post for you all of the 940, 941, DE9s, et cetera, whatever reports that we're filing on your behalf on a quarterly and annual basis. We post them out here so that you can view them, what we actually submitted. Okay. We will also post out here all the W-2s at year-end so that you have access to all of them. Okay, and then we have a mini report writer to write basic, simple reports. Okay. Any questions?
I did. I just had one or two questions.
Okay.
The first one being around historical data. So we obviously have a payroll system in place now.
Mm-hmm.
How would we be able to migrate all of that information? Because I think part of the thing on the employee self-service side is that they can access, historical data as it pertains to their pay stubs and W-2s, things like that. Could that be migrated over to Trax for more current?
Absolutely. So we do take, as a standard, we do upload for you all of your year-to-date. So let's say you decide to go live with Trax on the next quarter, 10/1. So we would need all of your year-to-date by quarter for quarter 1 and quarter 2 and quarter 3 that we upload to the system and apply for that employee. So that the W-2s are accurate year-end, that their pay stubs are accurate with the year-to-date amounts. When we do the quarterly filings, that's correct as well. And we also, when we upload that information, we actually audit it and balance it because we want to make sure that we balanced what you provided us, and we want to audit it to make sure that you weren't charged or overcharged or undercharged for any tax deposits. Somebody already met their max, in their maximum salary, and it needs to stop taking the the Social Security or whatever those different tax types are. We actually audit that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
That is all that I had. I mean, you did a really good job of taking me through the system in a short period of time. Those are all the questions I have for now. Like I just jotted notes down while you were going through the system. So I wanted to share them with my colleague. Unfortunately, Emily was not able to join me on the call today, so I'm going to have a call with him this afternoon later and just discuss this and discuss the functionality. And then if I have any other questions, would it be okay if I just shot you an email?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That would be the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay, great. Thank you so much again, Darcy. I really appreciate it, and you'll be hearing from me in the next day or so.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Oh, my pleasure.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.